All right, let's dive into something pretty incredible today. We're going to talk about a party, a truly remarkable one, where thousands of gods from just about every religion you can think of all show up. And we're going to uncover the story of the visionary who made it all happen, and what his idea might mean for the rest of us.
I mean, it sounds like the start of a joke, right? What happens if Mazu and the Buddha and Jesus and just tons of local deities all decided to hang out at the same gathering? It's a really fascinating thought experiment about faith and, well, just getting along.
But here's the thing, this isn't just some hypothetical question. This year in Taiwan, it actually happened. 3,853 deities attended a single event. Yeah, that's a new world record. And this is the story of how that incredible party even came to be.
It's called the World God Fellowship. It's this annual celebration where people bring their gods, their Buddhas, their saints, their spirits, all to meet and show each other mutual respect. But what's so fascinating is that this amazing event wasn't born out of perfect harmony. Actually, it was created to solve a pretty deep and divisive conflict.
So to really get a handle on the fellowship, we first have to go back and understand the problem it was designed to fix. And that was a huge debate that was happening inside Buddhism itself, about its role in a world full of so many different beliefs.
So here was the big question that was really splitting the community. How should Buddhism, with all its deep philosophy and traditions, deal with the really vibrant and ancient folk religions that are just a part of everyday life for millions of people? And well, people could not agree on the answer.
You basically had two camps, right? On one side were the purists. They were arguing that to really revitalize Buddhism, you had to build a wall. Separate its core teachings from what they saw as the kind of superstitious world of folk gods. But on the other side, you had this inclusive view. They were saying, no, we need to engage with these beliefs, not reject them. We need to understand that they are a totally valid part of people's spiritual lives.
And this wasn't just some academic debate, okay? This had real-world fallout. A super famous temple, one dedicated to Mazu, the powerful goddess of the sea, actually applied to join the National Buddhist Association, and their application was rejected. The purists won that fight, but in doing so, they basically turned away millions of Mazu followers who felt connected to Buddhism. It was a huge, huge missed opportunity.
So where does the answer to this whole dilemma come from? Well, the origin of the World God Fellowship can really be found in the life story of one man, Master Hsing Yun. It's like his entire life was preparing him to tackle this exact challenge. You see, Hsing Yun's perspective was totally shaped by his experiences. As a kid, his own grandmother mixed Buddhist and Daoist practices. Then, as a young monk, he actually studied alongside Daoists, which gave him this one family kind of view. But the real turning point came when he was in Taiwan. At first, he actually leaned toward the purist view himself, but then he saw firsthand the intense, angry backlash against another monk who preached against the goddess Mazu, and that was a powerful lesson.
It was a total light bulb moment for him. He realized that confrontation, that rejection, it just wasn't the answer. He saw that the only real path forward was one of coexistence, of finding a way for gods and Buddhists to be together.
So he took this personal revelation and started building it into this really elegant and sophisticated philosophy of inclusion. One that could build bridges not just between Buddhism and folk religions, but between all faiths.
And the way he broke this down is just fascinating. He came up with these 4 levels of belief. At the very bottom, you have heretical belief, faith that actually causes harm. He argued it's better to have no belief at all than that, because at least your mind is still open. Then you move up to superstitious belief. This is faith that's sincere, but maybe a bit uninformed. But instead of condemning it, he saw it as a really valuable starting point on the journey to the final stage, right belief, which is a faith that's rooted in true wisdom. He had this amazing analogy for it. He said faith is like school. Somebody might be at a PhD level, and someone else might be in kindergarten. That doesn't make the kindergartner's experience any less valid, right? They're both just students on a path. As he put it so beautifully, you have your greatness, and I have mine. And this all boils down to a core principle he called Tong Zhong Cun Yi, which means same but different. Now, the idea here is pretty revolutionary. Instead of trying to find sameness in our differences, which often means ignoring what makes us unique, he argued we should respect our differences while living together in a shared space. He had another beautiful metaphor to explain this. He said, religions are like lights. You can turn on a bunch of different lamps in the same room, and their lights will just coexist. They'll illuminate the space together without getting in each other's way. As the saying goes,
Their lights do not obstruct each other.
So, armed with this philosophy, Master Hsing Yun decided it was time to stop just talking about it and start doing something about it, to create a physical, real-world version of his vision for a world of coexisting faiths.
And it's wild how it all started. The fellowship began almost by accident in 2011 when some local temples brought their deities to celebrate the opening of a Buddhist center. Seeing them all there, Master Hsing Yun had his big idea. By 2015, they had a formal association to organize it. Just a year later, it broke its first world record, and this year it broke that record for a third time, cementing its place as a truly global phenomenon.
And you can really see that explosive growth here. I mean, the number of deities attending has just climbed and climbed, from just over 2,000 in 2016 to almost 4,000 this year. This is clearly an idea that is capturing the imagination of so many different faith communities.
You know, even the date they chose is just a stroke of inclusive genius. Master Hsing Yun picked December 25th. And why? Well, he pointed out that Christians have Christmas and Buddhists have the Buddha's birthday, but what about all the other gods? So he declared December 25th a day for all gods to have their own holy birthday, a day for everyone to be celebrated together.
Okay, so what does all this mean? What's the ultimate legacy of this party for all gods? It's a question that has implications that reach way, way beyond the island of Taiwan.
Well, for Master Hsing Yun, the vision was always much, much bigger. He saw this fellowship not just as a local party, but as a powerful message to the world, a working, living example of religious harmony that could be a model for a world that is so often torn apart by conflict over belief.
So when you boil it all down, the takeaway is pretty clear. The World's God Fellowship opens up dialogue, it gives real respect to local traditions, and it creates a common ground for shared goals, like praying for world peace. It proves that diversity doesn't have to be a source of conflict. It can actually be a profound source of strength.
Which really leaves us with a final, really important question to chew on. In a world that struggles so much with division, maybe the goal isn't to get everyone to believe the exact same thing. Maybe the more powerful, the more achievable, and honestly, the more beautiful goal is just to create a world that's built on shared respect.